Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Queenie, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can paint for yourself at home this gorgeous rosebud in a vase in acrylic on canvas. I'm going to be breaking this down step by step. I'm going to explain every technique. I'm going to explain every tool. I'm going to give you tons of tips and tricks to help you as a new artist to get through this painting. Help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
The disembodied voice that you just heard is my co-host, and he helps turn all the equipment on, make sure the cameras are pointing at what I'm teaching, and also helps with the live chat. If you are here during the live, put your questions all in capital letters. That will help us see it. We won't think that you are yelling at us. We have lots of moderators to help you find the information that you're looking for. They're really art ambassadors. If you would like to join the text notification family, this is the information for that. Unfortunately, it's only good for North America right now. We've never figured out how to get into global stuff. If that's something that you know, write us at support@theartsherp.com. Because we'd love to solve that problem, but right now it's just North America. And we will tell you when we're live. We will tell you when we're live. So if you wanted to know that information, that's how you would get that information from us, or the notifications on YouTube. Check the description down below. You'll see information about the materials, links to my website. On my website is TRACEABLE. Now, this is this sort of easy draw rose that I did a short of a little bit ago that you guys might have seen like red, and it's kind of like a cool little trick. So this is where we did a painting with that technique. So I'm going to be breaking that down again, right? This is going to be a lot easier than you think. Super fun rosebud to actually do, and so you can find that short if you are looking for like a quick refresher on how this is built. It's just 1 minute, and that one's pretty good. How are you doing today, John?
Doing okay.
Do you feel like you got a good vibe for today's art?
I think I can handle. I know what we're doing here.
Yeah. And you, by the way, you don't have to know what you're doing to succeed at this. We've really got you. This is a good place to be a very new painter.
Yes.
All right. So one of the things that we like to do is just go over all those materials once again. So I'm going to put now in this case, sometimes I don't do a painting ahead of time. Sometimes I just do digital reference or photo manipulation or photo reference or something like that. But this one I happen to have painted beforehand. So I'm going to put this to the side, and then you have your reference 8x8 canvas. On the palette today is Phthalo Blue is the top blue, Ultramarine Blue is the second blue, Quinacridone Magenta, Cad Red medium, Cad Yellow medium, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Sienna, Mars Black, a little bit of Phthalo Green, Titanium White. Now, I'm going to put out some satin glazing liquid because my conditions are very dry right now. My paint's been drying on me fast this week. I may not even need to use it. This painting doesn't require it for technique. I'm literally in just dry conditions where I got to slow down that drying time on my paint. I got my wet palette out, I got my mister, and now I've got some glazing liquid. So if it gets thirsty on me, I can give it the juice. Because sometimes we have to give our paint the juice. It's just how that goes. Okay. We know what we're using. We know we can do it. Nothing to do but jump into step one and start having some fun. Step one is a great step because it's one of my favorite steps, which is paint the whole canvas a solid color. And today's solid color is going to be a mix of the Mars Black and the Burnt Sienna together. A little more brown, maybe. So it's kind of like just a chocolatey brown, and then you're going to just paint the whole canvas chocolatey brown. And you can be messy about it too. This is just to help it be deep and rich. Like sometimes doing this ground helps an acrylic painting feel a little more like an oil painting. There we go. I'm coming around the edges. You don't have to be precious or neat with this at all. You could be if it is your temperament to be precious and neat. That would be perfectly okay. You just got to be you, especially in art. I'm going to tell you, I've been thinking about something recently as we paint all this in, which is that, spiders got a spider, mice got a mice, birds got a bird, and people got a people. And what that means to me is that everyone is just doing their best in any given minute. You right now in your painting are doing your best, right? And guess what? That's totally good enough. Because, you know, you don't worry about being the perfect mouse. You just mouse. Right now, you're just being the perfect you. Exactly as you are. We could say, Deborah's got a Deborah, and Mike's got a Mike. But that comes out in painting, right? So if you are a person who is highly tidy and highly organized, right? That's a wonderful thing. That's a feature, not a fault. If you're an artful person who's whimsical and not highly organized and a little bit free-spirited, that's awesome. They're both awesome. Now I'm just kind of making sure my whole canvas is covered in some kind of a way. Notice it's color tricky. It's not perfect. This is the under layer. This is this underpainting. Rinse out your brush. I used I don't know if I announced it at the beginning, so I'm going to announce it now. 3/4 inch angle brush. Not important for this step. You use any brush. Don't use the tiniest brush you have to paint the whole canvas of color because it'll add like an hour to your painting time. Use a reasonable size brush to do all that. But any brush you want. I like that Barbara's got a barb. That's okay.
So, to thoroughly dry your canvas there, make sure it's dry, so that when we go on to the next step, that you won't have any smearing or colors mixing that you didn't otherwise intend to mix on the surface. But a quick thorough dry will take care of all of that. And do you need an underpainting? Need is a strong word. It helps. It creates a tonal base that you sort of build on in acrylics. So it's and how do you know what color to do in the underpainting? So those are all really good questions that have a lot to do with the design of the painting.
Do you have any for me? I'm happy to answer. I don't have the chat up here.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
That's why I'm so highly focused on the painting today. I'm not distracted by chat.
So, in this, can you explain the purpose of underpaintings and the reason why you select the colors that you select?
That is its own deep dive. That's deep color theory, guys. That's an hour video. I have a lot of videos on color theory. I did a whole series on color mixing, color theory, color schemes, and all of that. And on this, it's really about understanding transparency of paint, how color theory works, relative color, and that's kind of like the trigonometry of art. But what I will generally say is, so if you look at this, this is a very rich and earthy piece. I could have done blue. I might have gotten away with yellow ochre, but I realized that if I went with the brown and black, it would give it, as there's some transparency, as there's different elements, there'd be this underglow of sort of an earthiness. And that's why I chose that. It's good harmony to the overall piece. So it's like in a nice harmony, and it's neutral enough to not change the color significantly of what I'm putting on here.
Right.
So that's how I picked that. But that whole, like, how do you do that? That is, that's color theory. And watch all the videos on color theory that you can.
Right.
Because they're fun. It's fun. Fun. You want to have your mind blown. Look up relative color.
So much theory.
Just feel like if you want to be like, what? Okay, now for the next step, I'm going to show you some options that you have. Just some important stuff. Brushes. I'm going to use my 3/4 inch angle brush. You could use a big wide brush like this that's a flat. You could use, I wouldn't go any smaller than an inch wide. You can go up to maybe like 2 inches or 1.5 inches, okay, on this, and still get the nice wide stripes that we're about to get. So just a nice square brush that's big enough for you to do this. I'm using the angle because if I paint with it like this, it's a square. It's a square brush. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Phthalo Blue and my Mars Black together and a smidge of my Titanium White, and I'm going to go vertically up and down. Maybe a little more blue, smidge of white. Like I'm definitely feeling the dry. I'm going to get a little more blue, maybe a little more white. Notice that load right there? And I'm going to start adding some, these are like atmospheric blended wet into wet. Notice I'm just lightly going over my already wet paint with the white, and it's creating those streaks in it. I'm going to kind of straighten those up because, well, you know. And then come over a little further. A little Mars Black, a little Phthalo Blue. You got this, guys. You've got this hardcore. Hardcore. Parkour. All right, I'm grabbing a little bit of white while it's all still wet. Just making sure I've got some nice streaks in here. My brush pressure is light. My paint load is light as well. I didn't grab a big glop of white and then try to do that over that. That would have just looked a big white streak. A little bit of white into the wet paint. A lot of acrylic painting is, or painting in general in art, is just knowing when to have a heavy, strong hand or when you got to have a light hand. I'm going to rinse out. And generally in blended or smooth techniques, it's kind of an indicator that you'll be using a light hand. Kind of, can you do an underpaint with watercolor? You can actually do an underpainting with watercolor. And there's a really cool technique in watercolor that's in every painting technique, which is called grisaille. And you do the whole painting in a tonal study, and then you glaze over the top of it with color. You have to be real careful because the watercolor is always active into the paper. So there's some technique stuff that you've got to work out there, but it's a really cool thing. Now I'm going to come over here and grab a little bit of my titanium, my my yellow ochre. And I'm going to begin to come up and down. And go across at first into here, and it kind of goes, we're going to start to get that dream. So it's a yellow ochre over here. And it's looking good. And grab a little yellow ochre over to my mix up here. A little more blue in it. Let's grab some white. See how we're getting that nice little green effect over to the yellow. So that's just a nice way. Get a little more green into it. Grab some blue. And I'm going to grab a little white. And again, I'm working wet into wet. I'm blending on the canvas. And I'm kind of doing vertical brush strokes and pulling it down so that it's nice and streaked. Because that's what's lovely. And
it's very
blend it out here. And so that's very nice.
Yeah.
Grab a little bit. That's a good background. Now, for the next part, we're going to need this all to be completely dry.
Totally.
What size canvas is an 8x8, Barbara? How good to see you today. It's lovely to see you. And, oh, welcome, Susie. What's the difference between a hue and original color? Well, it depends on how you mean original color, but I can explain to you the difference between a color and a hue. So your colors are like your red and your yellows and your blues, and your hues are like your red, orange, your green, yellow. I've got whole videos on this that I've got hue, tint, tone, shade, color, all those terms in a real short video demoed and explained out, and it's a really good video on that, and we do get into that. I have to know the context of what you mean by original color, because you could mean mother color or primary color. Like sometimes those terms are mushy. So if you know what they meant by saying that, I might be able to explain that difference. But like, so it's really interesting. So you've got primary colors, red, yellow, blue, right? And then you have the secondary colors, which are purple, green, and yellow. right? And then you have the hues of those, like how many kinds of reds are there? How many kinds of blues are there? See, that gets fun, doesn't it? Real fast. Okay, let's dry everything.
Just dry everything off real quick so you get this really nice background set. So just dry that thorough surface. Yeah, I think this is a really beautiful background as well. I noticed a lot of people commented on that. And it's a real simple effect that you can do. It doesn't draw attention from the subject, and can provide you some really nice contrast in a very simple way. So put that in your little mental notebook, so that when you're doing your when you're thinking about doing your own designs, you can draw from that.
Get into so many color videos. I did them for Acrylic April. I got color chart videos. You can make color wheels. You can make mixing charts. We got you.
So
all right.
Options.
To that end, I'm going to take a T-square ruler, and I'm going to make sure that this is just a little bit, come up a little bit above the rounding of this edge. So your canvas kind of rounds out. If you're on paper or an artboard, you just want to come up like not even quite a 1/4 inch. Close to it, but not quite. Then I'm going to take this pencil. This is a chalk pencil. This is a Stabilo Carbophthalo chalk pencil. I'm going to come across here. You can also use like Credit Color. You could use the Dritz chalk tool. You could use Kids chalk. We just want to create a line that's light that will vanish when we paint over it. And on this side, I'm going to grab a little bit. Oh, wait. Do we have my new step? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm going to come over from the right side and kind of brush towards the left. And to the degree that I can be tidy, I will. I'm going to grab a little bit of glazing liquid because, again, the paint. Sometimes one of the indicators that your environment may be dry for your paint is what's called drag on the brush. And that's how hard the paint is pulling against your brush stroke on the canvas. And a lot of times you'll hear me talking about low drag on the brush or freeing the brush or smoothing the brush or any of that stuff. And that's what I'm talking about, is those conditions. And that's how juicy the paint is. And so if it's very dry and the paint begins to kind of dry out, you'll start to feel it in a subtle way. So it's something to think about paying attention to. I'm going to grab a little bit of my burnt sienna. I'm going to come back this other side. And kind of blend that into that. Still using the 3/4 inch angle. So I want one side to feel lighter. Kind of see how it's darker here, lighter here, darker here, lighter here. That's what we're doing. We're just paying attention to our light source. Can you mix acrylic with oil and make it look oily? You absolutely cannot. You will not explode or be harmed by it, but your painting will not come out. I just wanted to say that because I said that so firmly. You absolutely cannot. It's like you don't even want to use oil brushes with acrylic paint. So here's the general rule. This is what you do. You can paint your underpainting, the beginning of your painting, in acrylic, allow it to dry completely, and paint oil over the top of it. But you cannot paint acrylic over the top of oil and have it stick. It doesn't bind to the paint. Just something you might not know. And now you do. Let's dry this all up so we can sketch in our vase.
So, yep. Time to dry. Again, gotta dry. And then we'll come in with the next step here and get the base face in. Or the base face? Not really sure. We're gonna get that next part in here though. So thank you guys for joining. If you need, there are links in the description down below for all the reference materials that you might need. You can check that out down there.
Fat over lean, says Jennifer D. That is how you remember that rule. That's right. 10 points for Gryffindor. Yes, fat over lean. You know, it's so funny. I hear sometimes artists like use those terms like on new people like out of the blue, and it's like we're all supposed to know the riddle of like lean over fat, fat over lean, and all the things, and you're like, what? But once you know it, then you're like, yes, I'm in the club. I know the thing.
Mm-hmm. Once you know, you know.
Once you know, you know. Now on here, the center point of my canvas is at the 4-inch mark, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and kind of just at the 4-inch mark or a little over, just in this general area, I'm going to make a little mark with one of my chalk pencils. If one of my chalk pencils would be kind enough to make a mark. There you go. Then I'm going to do a light vertical line from maybe from the 2/3 like kind of down, just super lightly though. You just enough for you to see it. Well, that's not enough for me to see it. What am I doing? And a little bit over this because that's not quite totally dry. All right, so I've got my center line. Then up here, I think I'll give you the exact down from the top on the vase because I've got it here. It is just 3 1/4 down. So come down to 3 1/4 inches. Boom, boom, boom. That's the top of my vase. And the bottom comes to just about 1/4 of an inch down here, which I don't know why that's not taking. It is fighting me today. Let me dry this a little more and I'll be able to sketch this out.
Sometimes if you don't thoroughly dry your surface enough, then the chalk doesn't want to stick to it. So sometimes you've just got to come in there and give it a little bit more, just a little bit more of that dry in order for it to thoroughly stick.
Yeah, it's just having a little trouble. Soft day. It's the glazing liquid. It's just one thing. If it's not one thing, it's your mother.
Right.
No, I've got a great mother. All right, I have to switch the paint, guys. I hate to do it, but my chalk is not working on me today. If you're having this, wait a minute and let the paint completely cool and be thoroughly dry. It's just got to skin because, like, I can totally sketch here. No problem. This is really about this just still
being
a pain.
A difficultness.
Normally, I would just wait. But since I'll do this I guess I'll do this line in black because, you know, I like to scare myself. So I'm getting my round brush. This is my number 6 round. And I'm going to come here and make a nice little couple inch and half a little line down here. Okay. And at the top, I'm going to make a smaller and equally spaced on both sides of my center line. So however long this line is on my left side, I need it to be that long on my right side from that center line. Go down a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to lightly sketch this out. I'll have to just paint this in later. Bend out a little line. Symmetrical as you can make them. That's why I like the chalk for this stage. Because making little decisions in paint can be a little bit frustrating. But this is what you do when you don't have the chalk you want to have. Going to kind of erase here a little bit. Because I didn't like that bottom line. You've got a traceable if you don't want to do this. It's on the website. And you would just take that and transfer that onto the canvas.
Okay.
So if you don't feel like going through this experience with me, that's okay. I'll get you drawn eventually. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little stem line down here. It's coming off that edge, down that center, and down. Not all the way to the bottom. If it just stays asymmetrical, it's a handmade vase. Artisanal. Take a little stem up this way. And then I'm going to come here and actually I'll brush this out about an inch line and then just taper a little leaf out, guys. There you go. Taper a little leaf. A little stem off here. A little like thorn coming down. Get a little more. A little downward line. Let's give it another little. Now let's paint another little leaf shape. If you think about it, this is my little center line, all right, for my leaf. It's going to be wider at the base here and narrow at the tip. That's the shape of a leaf. I'm making little brush strokes that brush out and they become shorter, and you can see that gives me that sort of raggedy edge that you think of for rose petals. I mean, rose leaves. That's how we get that. And then we're going to be slimming and trimming this down. So like keep that in mind, that these will have highlights and things on them and therefore be very, very, very different. Okay, hopefully I got this enough to be able to get through. Dry everything, and I'll tell you what we're going to do when we come back.
That's very good that you would tell us, because if not, we would have
You'd be
to
stuck in this painting.
guess. It would be a guessing game. I don't know that I'd be as good at the guessing part of this one. But this gives you the basics. You get a base line outlining on a table to get us started there.
Mm-hmm. What?
We're starting here with some line drawings on a table.
Line drawings on a table. That's where we start. We begin our architecture. It gets to be a hot mess. It's totally perfect. If your painting is a hot mess, you're doing perfect. Okay. We're going to take a little bit of our burnt sienna over to our phthalo green. And I'm going to make kind of a deep, deep foresty green. And then when I come over to the yellow, it's going to give me a green gold. Right? So that's how we get to the green gold. Just a lot of drag on the brush today. The brush is a drag, man. It's a drag. All right. So now I'm going to take a little bit of green down the center of this. I let a little of the black kind of show through. Little trim section of the black, right? That's actually nice. Nice. We'll be putting a highlight on one side, but we want to just make sure. I think I am going to kind of add a little green to the top of this time. Rinse out your round brush, and I'm going to grab a 1/2 inch angle brush. Actually, no, I'm going to use the same brush because that way I'll get the same brush strokes, and then you don't have to have another brush. And come here and imagine I'm going to just barely paint that center line, and then I'm going to join them together. Barely see where my center line is, and then and I can leave the black to be my little raggedy edges. Now, I'm going to take my black line and just go right across that again. And we're going to do another thing. I'm going to take fine black line. Come across for the water. So that'll be our water line. It's working well. Okay. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to get into my angle brush in here. And I'm going to start mixing up some fun colors. First of all, we're going to get a little bit of our Ultramarine blue. Our Mars black together, and we're going to get a little bit of white involved. I'm going to come on this side. I'm going to make some gray. Down this edge. And brush straight down. To the water. I'm going to grab a little bit of brown onto my brush, maybe a little blue this time, but mostly brown. Come on this side. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my... Oh, I got some blue on there, so I got to rinse out. Was never going to get to orange from there. My brush was dirty.
Oh.
Grab a little clean yellow.
And then did you clean water too, right?
Clean water, clean... Yeah, it's just... Okay, a little bit of red orange there. Get back into my brown. Very carefully. Brush a little bit of that there. And then down here for sure. Sometimes I'll grab a little bit more red. It's not terrible. I might come get a little bit of black on my brush. All right. Over towards the orange. I'm trying to make a darker color here. That far corner. And kind of darkening the bottom of the vase. There's lots of reflections we're going to be putting. Look at that. 1/2-inch angle brush. Let's dry everything.
Go back up and see.
Hi.
Let's see here.
We're just going to see where we are in the stream so we can get caught back into our lesson.
So I'm not sure exactly where. Let's see here. It's not helping me at all. Oh, there it goes.
I'm just this is literally I do nothing for this stuff. That's why.
Okay, so I think
I just wait till the technology is fixed.
I'm not exactly sure where. Okay,
went out and came back still frozen. Yay, she's back.
I think that what we missed here, if I can tell, I'm just going to go ahead and look. It looks like so we had finished the last step, and then what you'd done is you had drawn in the red. You had drawn in the rose here and just filled in some red.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not exactly sure how much of this we have lost here. I'm trying to go back and look, but it's not really giving me a whole lot of good stuff going on here. But I don't think we missed much except for perhaps drawing the basic rose in and getting that red part. So from here it looks like they could see what was going on here. I think
this is what we basically did. Using my round brush and my Cad Red and my Quinacridone Magenta. The basic shape of the rose is a U. There's an ellipse at the top. We paint one little spike out up top, another little one, and then a bigger one, and a bigger one. And that's how we get to the rose to where it's at right now. That's why it's such a strange little rose. So you can see that strange little shape there. If you've got the traceable, you're way in the size of it already. Now, once it's dry, come along here I'll have to do it with yellow. I'm going to do this with, yeah, I'll do this with like a little white and cad red. So, come along here with my lighter color. And the inside of that. And then I'm going to bend this line all the way down towards the bottom of the rose. I'm going to take a little bit of my paint and I'm going to thicken the petal and join it down. And I might add another little sort of bump. There we go. So it kind of bumps and bumps.
Oh, I gotta make you small again. Look at this. I've left you big. Hold me a
We are
second.
all over the
There
place
you go.
today.
There.
Unfocused and crazy.
Well, I just was looking over there, and see,
all right,
part
so we're
of it
going
is-
to add a little line in there.
Sometimes I don't even notice what I see because you know what I mean. Because like I'm
And
looking at you.
widen it out and join in. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. I'm just
You're fine.
realizing how I'm just sort of a little scattered on. I'm just looking at you, and you're like blocking the serve, and I'm just like, oh man.
Scattered. I'm scattered too. All right. I'm just doing this so you can really see it. Plus, I'll help you. We're going to come down and join that in. I need to make it a little bit higher. And then I'm going to make this a little bit ruffled. That petal's a little bit ruffled. I might come and trim this up later with the little shadow. There we go. That there. I'm also going to come up to the top. Make a little C mark. Come around. A little bit at the top so I can see the top of that rose. Not terrible. Rinse out. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to come get some black. You guys are doing great. You're doing just fine. We're going to come underneath here, but before the stem touches the rose, and we're going to just press out along the bottom base of it. Then we lighten our brush stroke. This is, again, our number 6, Sepia Round by Raphael. You can have a different brush. It will not impact the outcome of your painting.
Oh, thank you, Angela.
Angela, thank you so much. You're always so supportive. Thank you, Angela. Actually, you guys are always, always so supportive. Just brush that out there. Nice, another little. And then a little arc. And this one kind of comes down over the stem. Might widen that out a little bit at the top. Okay, let's dry everything.
Just thoroughly dry it.
Just dry, dry, dry. Dry, dry, dry.
Dry. So, sorry about the little technical stuff that was happening there. I mean, my goodness, it's just crazy sometimes the YouTubery of all this stuff. So, I do hope that you guys, I think it'll be okay here on the replay. It'll just have a little jump there. But,
Yeah, I hope so. I went back over and did the thing sort of again on a
Yeah,
quick catch up, so I'm hoping we're kind of okay.
I think we are based on what I read here.
You know, so
Sorry about that.
it's just one of those days. Sometimes that happens.
Oh my goodness! Now I have
Round
to figure
brush
out.
again.
I don't even know what step we're on
I'm gonna grab my round
because
brush.
I lost my thing.
This is live.
This'll be a
Sometimes things happen when it's live,
step
but
will
we
be
just keep
here.
painting.
I just don't know what step it is.
We let life throw us the curveballs, and we just keep playing ball. So I'm going to take my pure cadmium red, kind of come on here, and maybe I might extend that petal a little bit. I'm going to brush that down, not all the way down, just a little bit. Now we come along here, kind of under here.
So we're gonna.
And I might widen that out just some.
I think we're on a. I think this may be step 6.
And come along here and kind of trim this up and let this be a little. Oh, let's take this thinner. A little bit of red here. And take some pure red. And come in the center here and kind of do those little curls again. So this is a lot like those messy roses we do, but now we're using it to do a bud. We're doing a bud, guys. Who doesn't love doing a bud? Take a little bit of my cad red and my cad yellow. Kind of come along in here. A little orange on top there. I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone and a smidge, goodness gracious, a smidge of my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to make a bit of a merlot. Kind of come to the bottom, and I'll come along the edge of that petal. I might need some glazing liquid just to not have trouble with it. Come along here. Sorry to get quiet. I thought I heard that like alarm for
the test alarm.
The test alarm, but I was like listening. Dad knows that's a test, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want to scare the company. I'm going to add this burgundy to the bottom here. So I'm letting this remain light, and I'm adding little shadows here. I'm adding the shadow under the petal. Right? Let's come under this little petal a little bit. Shade that some too. Shade it some too. I'm going to come under this one where it joins into the rose. And I will darken that little corner in there. And I'm tapping my brush up and down to kind of like blend and soften that line. Get some glazing liquid on here because my brush is drying on me pretty quick. Come along here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see it very clearly. I'm going to take a little bit of my burgundy, and I'm going to come inside my rose too in little circles. It's looking pretty good. It's looking okay, my friend. Let's make a little yellow and red together. We're making an orange again. Let's add some white to it. I'm going to come along this little edge here and just brush that in towards the petal. I might even turn my canvas to have an easier time doing this. So I'm going to turn my canvas so that I can stroke in a curve towards myself, because it's my strongest bend. See how that's letting us kind of stroke in the curve of the petal? I just kind of want to have that bend. The other way it can come is from the outside edge, inside to the outside. Get a little more orange on there. Kind of blend that out. Look at that. That turn of that petal is just perfect today. We're cooking with fire. Let's get a little more orange with some white, which is our peachy peach. Peachy peach. Brush in a little highlight here on that outside edge of that petal. And I can always come and get a little bit of my Cad Red with just a smidge of my quinacridone. A little yellow. So what I want is a highlight on the outside and then shadows. So we're just lightening this, and that's going to turn our flower. I'm going to just blend this a little bit. I'm getting my little peach to blend in. I grabbed some glazing liquid. I just want to have a little more. See how I'm painting out that highlight on that petal? I'm going to paint out a little highlight on this petal. Paint out a little highlight on this petal. And then a little bit along the inside edge. Okay. I rinse my brush out, and anywhere where I can just sort of soften everything with it. See how I'm smudging, softening. Okay. I'm going to dry everything. Come back, I'll show you what we do next.
All right. So, thank you guys there. Sorry about that little buffering trouble we had. It's, you know, something that comes along as we do this sometimes. Oh, that was a fast one. That was a very fast dry.
It was. I just needed it dry enough to take the next layer.
All right, so the last step should have been 7, so this one will be 8.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to take my #1 Raphael Precision round. These short detail rounds, the 0, the 2, and the 1 are interchangeable in relationship to me using them, demonstrating them to you painting. I have all 3 sizes and they're relatively similar, so I'll grab them interchangeably. What I'm looking for is a small detail brush. Get my brush wet, and let's thin. We can either use fluid paint or thin white. I've been using a lot of fluid paint lately, so let me show just thinning white, because I haven't demoed that in a second. I take drops of water out, I pull my white paint, and I incorporate the water into it. And I'm gonna take a little bit of this peach color and bring it over to this thinned white. And maybe a little more yellow into it so it's a little warmer. It needs to be the lightest color of my petal. I'm loading it on just the toe of my brush. Come on the outside edge. And I think it's fun to sort of just follow anything along every little bump on that edge, right? So it exaggerates the delicateness of the petal. There we go. Sound effects absolutely help. Never doubt it. So this is the light peach. Peach is orange with white. There we go. Oh, took that a little bit too far. This line should not cross the other line. So what I do is I just get my water and erase. See what I did? Mm-hmm. And I can even at this stage, if I want to be fussy, take a little bit of shadow color. Separate up these 2 petals with the hint of a shadow. Can you see that? Separate up these. So they're even crossing little shadows in front of crossing each other. Rinse out. Grab a little bit more of our edge line color, which is our peach. Cad red, cad yellow, titanium white. Orange and white is peach. Let's come on this outside edge again. I'm making a very delicate line. It's not a thick or heavy line. Look at that go. It's so lovely to paint a little rose on a Tuesday. Along that little edge there. Look at that go. I'm going to roll. And then because it's easier in my hand, I'm going to turn this a little bit cattywampus. Kind of cattywampus. Just to give myself a good ellipse. That's just easier for me. I'm going to come here and little curl. Little curl. There we go. Just the little spirals in the center of the rose to make those petals seem light. Let's call that a step. Well, no, I might actually smidge up the center line some. I'm going to grab a little bit of red. I felt like I got my ellipse a little. See, I'm able to come in and fix that. If that's bothering me at all. There we go. I just want to make sure my center petals. Want them highlighted, but there we go. Honestly, any little fussing just improves it greatly. Rinse out. Are we on a new step or no? We're going to be on a new step after this.
We can go to a new step.
Everything.
And try it. Then we'll be on a new step. So, dry, dry, dry. And then we'll go on to the next step. And the drying shouldn't be too terribly difficult here because you've just done a few little layers. But it is important to get it thoroughly dry so that each of those mixed layers do cover properly, so you don't muddle your colors, as they say.
There's a really good question from Aesthetic Mushroom 369. What linear brush do I recommend?
Ooh.
So I think things that are when a brush is called a fine liner or micro or rigger or liner, and there's a series of them. And I'll show you kind of the difference. If you can see those two brushes there, but there's a slight difference between their heads, right? One is much finer and longer, right? So this here is just a regular round liner, and then this here starts to become a fine liner, and then if it gets any longer than this, then it's like a rigging brush. It gets like, if it's any like out here, and these are all about creating finer lines. I like a shorter length out on my detail than the longer one. The longer one can be harder to use as a new artist. You want a detail brush that doesn't give you so much length out that you have to really have your hand pressure under control. I'm not telling you this specific brand. If you want to just get what I have Raphael Precision. You could use Princeton Select. They have a very good detail round. The sepia that I have has a pretty darn good point. If you've got like nothing else, Simply Simmons has got some good ones. But it's really just about getting into the brush store and looking at the brushes and, going, is that really long out? Because you might online think this is the best one for you for detail, and it's fantastic. But when you load paint on it and you get onto the canvas, it can be a little bit hard to control because it's so long out. That's why. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm going to grab my number 6 round again. Let me get back into my green paint. Which
now we're ready for a new step.
Yeah, I'm ready for a new step. I'm going to take burnt sienna to my phthalo green. You are doing fantastic. If you're feeling stressed, you're like, I'm not doing any good. I'm not doing any good. You're doing perfect. Remember, Barbara's got a Barbara. You're just painting. I'm taking a little bit of my cad yellow over to the mix. Come here and very carefully sort of brush that up over the black. And then up over the top of this and then down. Take my green paint, add just a smidge more yellow to it. Get into my white. More yellow. There we go. Get my little detail brush involved again. I'm going to make sure that my stem is looking good. It got a little overpainted, so I'm just putting back a little green. I'm going to grab a little bit of this light green that I've made. Brush out a highlight. Brush out a highlight. Come right here. Let's highlight over here and to the right-hand side of the leaf. Brush out a highlight on the right-hand side of the leaf. So top, right-hand side. Sometimes I kind of feather down just to, you know, make it interesting. I'm going to put this brush in my mouth. And I'm going to grab my angle brush, I think, and dry brush out a little bit of a highlight here, and here, and here. Just a little bit. Angle brush, just flicking out. That's looking good. Rinse out. Remove brush from mouth. You don't actually have to have your brush in your mouth. That's just a silly thing I did. I'm going to roll my brush. Notice I'm rolling the paint out of my brush. And I'm loading the tip. On the right-hand side of the stem, I am adding a highlight. And since I decided to add green this time to the black on the stem because I didn't like it just black, I'm going to go ahead and add another little highlight here, here, here. Maybe a little bit on the thorns. Check that out. Wow, we are cooking with fire. Let's call it a new step. I think we should dry everything because I'm going to start brushing onto the face now, and I don't want to move any of my green.
Right, you don't want to brush any of those.
We want to finish out our glass.
Wrong there. So thoroughly dry it so that you come over the next. You don't drag any lines. And we're going to get on to some glass highlighting, I think. Glass lighting. High glass lighting. We'll be on to the next step. The 10th step.
So there's a good question here. What are some good alternatives for phthalo green? You can mix them up yourself. If you have phthalo blue and a little bit of cad yellow, you just want to mix a green that's more blue than yellow. So let me just show you this real quick because sometimes you don't need to get a different thing of paint. Let's get my cad yellow out here. So here's my phthalo blue with just a little bit of yellow in it. Now if I just keep adding yellow. See how that's kind of a blue-green? See? Same thing. So sometimes you don't need a whole new tube of paint. It's just understanding that Phthalo Green Blue shade is a blue biased green. And so I think sometimes the easiest way to get there would be to mix up a little green to the side. Mix up your Phthalo Green with a little bit of Phthalo Blue and Cad Yellow. You can see that's darn close. That's what we mean by hue. It's a hue, it's not the color. It doesn't have the real pigment in there. Okay, so we're going to add some highlights. I'm going to get back into my gray, which was my Ultramarine blue and my Mars black. And I've just got to make sure it's a slightly blue base, so I'm getting my glazing liquid involved. Grab a smidge of white. And I'm kind of come over, glaze over that bright red with that, so it's slightly transparent. It's going to glow through a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit down here, little downward stroke, little angle stroke. I'm just putting a few out there in a couple of places. I don't want everyone, just creating dimensionality in my glass. Now, I'm going to let all that dry for a second and get my detail brush. I'm going to thin some more white paint with my water. Doesn't need to be perfectly white, but it does need to be thin enough to come off your detail brush with some sort of fluidity. Hate thinning paint. Buy a bottle, the 1 ounce bottle. You don't need to have the big bottle of titanium white fluid, not heavy body, fluid. And then you don't have to thin your white paint. I'm going to come in the middle of my black and kind of add a little bit of a, gosh, this is just such a fine line. As fine as I can make it. And I do what's called breaking the line. My line is not a solid, thick line. You'll notice there's pauses. A little bit there. I'm just adding a little bit of white highlight. Let's come across here. And again, a little bit at that angle. It comes down. Try to keep it symmetrical as you can. I'm kind of keeping a little line on that little angle. And then I'm going to come across my water line a little bit right across the stem. Right? Mm-hmm. Water line would go across our stem. Now we need to dry.
Pretty cool there.
It is pretty cool, and we're almost done.
Almost. And I'm going to say big thank you, welcome to Marlene. Thank you for joining Emoji Club. And thank you to all of our patrons, everybody who supports us with the likes, the comments, the shares, the little earthling dollars and pennies that come down and help us keep the lights and electricities flowing. We appreciate it all so very much. And now to the 11th step.
And now to the 11th step. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some turquoise. I'm going to take some Phthalo Green and Phthalo Blue together. I could also just do that from the yellow too, guys. That's why Phthalo Green is a convenience color. And grab a little bit of nice bright turquoise. I add white to the Phthalo Green mix, Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green mix. I add white to it. Come here. Just kind of downward. A little more dry on my brush. Get a little bit of our slightly lighter. Let's come up here and add a little turquoise. Little irregular brush strokes. Might grab a little green. Just add a little yellow to the mix. See, I'm adding a little green. Just putting some color down there so it's not just red. And add a little bit over here. Just, see, this is dry brushing. You can see I'm just going over the canvas so lightly, and then the paint is just dusting. You can see the load on my brush is super light. Across, just dust, dust, dust. Okay, dry everything. It doesn't have to be a new step, but it does need to be dry to do the next step.
That makes sense. Just gotta keep drying. Important to keep the dries. That easy enough?
Yeah, just enough so that you can dry brush over the top.
And so you want to make you want to end on the 12th step?
Is this the 12th step?
This would be 12.
Yes, we actually are ending on the 12th step. So
this would be 12.
Not even my weirdness. I'm grabbing some just white. My brush is dry. I've got a light load of white paint on it. I might even wipe off on my towel, so it's definitively light. Do not put the white reflection over your leaf here, or it'll put it inside the vase. If you want it to be over it, you have to be precious around it. See how I'm doing? Mm-hmm. And then dry brush. A little more paint. That's a hot reflection. That just means it's brighter. Add a little hot reflection there. I'm going to use the corner of my brush and kind of make it irregular so it seems like there's sort of interesting light in the room. That's even more luminous this time. You can always come back through if any of your white lines are too thick and also kind of thin some of the white lines. See what I'm doing? So if for any reason they over thickened, this is how you get them back. So you can thin that glass face as much as you need to. Okay, I'm about to sign. Oh wait, no. I'm about to be done, but are there any questions that I missed? I'm going to get my blue-gray color. I'm going to get my ultramarine blue, Mars black, and a little bit of glazing liquid. I'm going to come under my vase.
Is this a 2-hoot, do you think?
Yeah, it's 2-hoot.
2-hoot.
A little more than a 1. Well, I don't know. It's going to depend on how everyone paints it.
Yeah, it could
be 1, probably 2. I'm going to get a little black and kind of come underneath my vase here. Sometimes I like to just sort of blend my little shadow out. Just nice to have a shadow on your vase. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to sign. And then what was the question? Did I get the question?
The hoot, yeah, the hoot level.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a 2. But it might be a 1. Let's see how you guys do. I'm going to grab a little bit of this color here, this blue color. No, I'm going to actually go yellow oak. I'm going to do what I did before. Sometimes I like to sign it different colors so I can tell the paintings apart. But in this particular case, I just want a light kind of yellow ochre color. And come here and sign it. Any other questions that I missed?
I'll go over and take a look.
Thank you. And if for any reason
Jane says we love you.
I love you too.
Looking forward to seeing people at the upcoming retreat event. That's going to be fun.
Super excited
Just
about the
around
retreat.
The corner.
Super excited about the retreat.
Around the corner for our peoples.
Look at that go. We just cooked that in.
That turned out so nice. Let me make you big here. There it goes. Man. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming and painting with us today. And, you know, we have a bunch of videos up there on different color mixing techniques and things. We have a whole bunch of those, don't we? So if you had questions about, like, various...
Yeah, Engel Norham had just asked, how do you mix colors without white? I'm out. Man. Then you have to think like a watercolorist where the canvas is your white. And you would use glazing techniques and transparent techniques, and you'd have to understand the relative value of color. So you'd want to know that, you know, certain colors are lighter in chroma, like yellow, so that registers as your highlight. But if you don't have white, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. White is like white and black, and red, yellow, and blue are kind of essential for everything else that comes after. All right. You guys, it's just been such a fantastic day. I want you to be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you at an easel real soon. Bye-bye.